Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome everyone to this webinar, the human rights and COVID-19, what now for Rohingya. I'd like to start with thanking ISI, Institute of Statelessness and Inclusion, and also their partner who put this together, FRC, Free Rohingya Coalition, not FRC Foreign Registration Card, just in case the some Burmese might not like the word free and fair, so I just want to make sure. So today we are here, we gathered here. Okay, can we pretend we are all in one room, sort of in different rooms, so that it is easier to talk for me, I guess. Today we gathered here to talk about the Rohingya people of Arakan, a territory occupied by Burmese. Now it's modern-day Myanmar. That their situation has already been in the crisis point before COVID-19 pandemic. The human rights situation in Myanmar and in the countries in the region where they are seeking refuge had been further deteriorated during COVID-19. And of course, the government of Myanmar, conveniently exploiting this pandemic situation to implement the Burmese supremacist agenda to discriminate against the minorities across the country and instigating violence and forced displacement, human rights violations are being continued. But we know very little about it because COVID-19 is dominating the news. On the other hand, in the region, or regional countries called, or neighboring countries where the genocide survivors, the Rohingyas, are taking refuge, countries like in Bangladesh, India, in Malaysia, has very limited access to like healthcare or public healthcare information, sanitation, decent housing, humanitarian aid, are severely limited. And the livelihood, the options of earning livelihood has been very much restricted, which has worsened the vulnerability of Rohingya. And it was in the news in recent pushback of asylum seekers boat from Malaysia has tragically cost hundreds of refugees' lives at sea. So in this webinar, this forum, if you like, was put together a group of panelists, a group of very well-known, distinguished activists from different continents, in fact, actually. So let me just briefly introduce them. Razia Sultana from Bangladesh. She is the founder of actually Rohingya Women's Welfare Society. And Ali Johar from India, an activist. And Lwin is founder of also the Free Rohingya Coalition, FRC, co-founder. And Hafsar, and permanent human rights activist, defender and human rights activist. And of course, Yasminullah, who is in Canada. She's the president of the Rohingya Activist Network. I just don't remember the words actually. So, and let us begin to talk about the Rohingya situation in the pandemic, what is, what is different, what cause more problematic in terms of situation in Bangladesh. If Razia Sultan, if you take the floor, please.
Thank you so much and giving me the opportunity. And Assalamu alaikum, my Rohingya brothers and sisters. Welcome here. Okay, let me start. I am Razia Sultana. I'm a Rohingya lawyer, an educator, and a community worker in the Rohingya refugee camp in Bangladesh, and also founder of RW Welfare Society. I'm sorry about inform you because my welfare is a registered name by RW. It's not the Rohingya Women Welfare Society. It is about Bangladesh policy. You cannot use any nation or any people's names, not people, especially the nation name for your organization. Okay, thank you. Today is the 25th of June, and it's now around more than 3 months since the COVID-19 lockdown of Bangladesh Rohingya camps began. On 15 May 2020, the first coronavirus case was detected in the Rohingya refugee camp in Bangladesh. And recently, the coronavirus deaths are recorded. And yesterday, as my information is died. The Bangladesh government is trying hard to prevent the spread of the coronavirus in the camp, but the response has been a challenge in the camp because the population is densely, making social distance difficult. There is limited access to hand washing and sanitation, also awareness. Additionally, the lockdown has meant that NGO staff have no access to the camp, which has limited the distribution of ration. Also, importantly, restriction on mobile phone usage and internet in the camp have prevented us from providing vital public health information to camp population on how to prevent the coronavirus and access surveys. So rumor and misinformation has spread in the camp, creating an environment of fear and worry. Today, I want to talk about the impact of the coronavirus response on women in the camp and the importance, including the refugee women, also the whole community in COVID-19 response. The first impact is that the other lockdown, the supply of ration in some areas has been reduced to nearly half. Women are disproportionately affected by food shortage globally, as well as in the Rohingya communities within household. It is often men and children food intake that is prioritized. So it is predominantly, it is most affected for the women who go without food and causing health problems. And second impact on women is domestic violence has increased since the restriction. Lockdown means the men are no longer going out to do the volunteer work, and there is an increased stress in home. Women suffering domestic violence are confined to their homes and are not able to reach out the informal network or services. Even the children also facing the abuse. Women cannot access the safety and support, and they cannot give the information properly for the CIC or any security or any volunteer. We need some flexibility with the restriction in the camp so that camp-based volunteer can provide urgent support for domestic violence victims. There has been some positive progress in the female leadership as some stubborn women come forward to educated women about their rights as women and human, and create a self-organization and giving awareness about the gender-based violence and other issues. Before, we did not have the female in leadership before. It's too early to break the tradition in the community. So we have to be forward very carefully. The pandemic could could increase the sexual and then gender-based violence, as more women have to stay in the confinement to the shelter in the refugee camps, and the environment is against them. So it's really concerned for we have also shortage about the youth, especially the male and female leadership who can guide the community, also the direction. So we have to give them training, but what is now is very, you can say, very difficult. But this we have to be maintain this gap. And the third impact on the women is that they are not able to access information to how they protect themselves and their families from COVID-19 or accessing health service. It's really important that women are reached directly to the higher education. Women are often the primary cares in the family, and reaching women can ensure that the children and dependents are also kept safe from the disease. Social norms mean that the women have unequal access to the public here, and are not always able to attend the public meeting or go out to seek healthcare and information. Most of women thought would have access to mobile phone in the home, but since September 2019, restriction on mobile phone usage and internet have been in the place is out of hand and out of camp, and everyone. They are, not able to take the mobile. Also, seeing restriction about the. So this is a very big barrier for the women, especially women. The Bangladesh security and Bangladesh government allow one mobile for the one family. So it is, you can say, this if one mobile is always hand in the man. So women are not able to use that when they need. Fourth impact on the women is that they are no longer involved as a volunteer health educator and community worker in the camp. Communication between staff and camp-based volunteer has been cut off. This is because aid worker cannot enter the camp, and also volunteer cannot connect by the mobile phone. Volunteers can be organized, trained, or utilized effectively in the spreading health information if the INGO will concern. Involving the camp-based women and youth as health educator can help us to reach women and whole communities. So this is only a big issue for us, that we have to focus on the women and self-organized group and youth group. The final impact is that the international aid budget to the camp in Bangladesh are being cut, and funds are decreasing as the NGO divert the fund to COVID-19 people inside Myanmar. Myanmar has behaved irresponsibly when faced with coronavirus, but are being rewarded. Meanwhile, Bangladesh has made effort to put the men in the place in the camp of Bangladesh, with more, not less funding to build on the strategic already the place of prevent spread COVID-19. I would like to urge international agency to maintain the funding to the refugee camp in Bangladesh. Is already it's really important that the relief and the COVID response take into the account the particular vulnerability of the women in the camp. So they have to be concerned about the aid policy, and they should
yes, thank you.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
And also one thing. I want to say that one thing, don't forget about the people of the boat people who are now in the sea, and they're facing too much difficult. So this COVID is not make camp people also the inside Myanmar and the sea. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Razia, Sultana. Thank you very much. There are a few things, of course, in the camp, particularly what is affecting to the women, and this is a very unfortunate situation, and all the time, actually, not only during COVID-19, and as we understand, COVID-19 has been, aggravated with the domestic violence and all that. And For the participants here, for the audience, please write down your questions to Razia, Sultana. If you have any questions, please send send them to the organizers, and they will before the end of this session, during the question Q&A, they would put the questions to the panelists. Now, after Bangladesh, we also have a large number of refugees in India. And Ali Johar is an activist who were born in Arakan, but fled at the age of 10. And he lived in Bangladesh and also now living in India for last 8 years, I guess. And he's a very accomplished young man, and he has been very active with the community and helping out. And he has been also recognized as a global peace ambassador, global youth peace ambassador, in fact, by the Rajiv Gandhi National Institute of Youth Development. So Ali, please enlighten us. Please tell us about what is the situation in India with the Rohingya refugees in there.
Thank you so much, Suja, for giving me the floor. I hope I'm audible enough. And greetings of peace to everyone who are listening to me. In India, there are almost over 18,000 Rohingya refugees, according to UNHCR, and according to our estimate as well. So our people are spread in different parts of the India, like almost 6,000 in Hyderabad, followed by Jammu and Kashmir, Haryana, and Delhi. In Delhi, there are 1,100 of our people found refuge. So because of the pandemic, there has been severe effect on our people because most of our people stays in a camp-like situation where shelters are made of plastic, tarpaulin, plywood, and bamboos. So these camps are not given by anyone, but organized by our own people only. There are people who are staying in rental apartments as well, who can afford rental apartment. So due to COVID-19, there were almost continuously a 3 months lockdown in India. So which has affected severely in all the sectors, including unorganized sectors where most of our people found jobs. So this is the only livelihood opportunity for our people having here in India. So as their jobs has been closed, they were into a situation where from both sides our people found it very hard. Like from this side there was no job, from another side there was price hike of all these essential commodities, as there was rush into the grocery stores from all the people from all the sectors. So it was very difficult time when the pandemic started for our people. So again, in the camp situation, which are very congested, these WHO guidelines cannot be, which can be seen as privilege to follow all the WHO guidelines. There is no proper water, there is no proper sanitations, and the situation is very congested, and social distancing cannot be really possible. So there is fear among our people as well of getting infected because these are the really areas which are at high risk. People are in very large number at one place. So there has been our people who are out of rations, people who are staying in rental apartment, they can't pay rent, they have faced harassment from landlords, and there was campaigns of hate speeches from several outfits, as some medias attacked our people, targeted some some group of people from particular faith, blaming them of spreading coronavirus. So our people was also not spared from this target. So there was help organized from various sectors, including community-led organizations like Rohingya Human Rights Initiative have helped with essential commodities to more than 2,000 families across India, and UNHCR was also came forward with the request of community with the help of other organizations in local areas. So this was not enough, but there was people who from the local areas as well as from the government levels who have came forward to help our people. So in terms of health, all the health sectors was closed, including OPDs. Only health facilities which were treating coronavirus was open. So there are people who are having lifestyle diseases among our people who have severely affected. With this, so in regular time, there have been hate from the health worker against our people, which discourage our people to visit all the government health sectors, and no additional help from our people from anywhere. For local people, there are insurance, there are government schemes, but for our people relies in the mercy of their own. Transportation is another issue to get access to health, which can be costly for 2 days of earning of our people. And now you can imagine which that is how impossible for our people. So education, if I talk about education, in most of the states, our children cannot be enrolled in formal school. So community has decided to open up their own community centers where children are attending breach classes, but in not all, these are not available in all the camps. So there are children who have finished their primary and junior school from Myanmar. There is no bridge classes to bring them back to normal education system from any organizations. Women are affected after crossing the border into India. They became skillless as they were working in agriculture sector mostly in Myanmar. Language is another barrier for mostly women, as they stay at home only. They cannot even express their feelings to health workers. So you will be surprised to know there is still no female interpreter at UNHCR for any interview. So which is a very difficult task for women to share their personal thing, including rape and sexual harassment if they have faced while they were in Myanmar or while they crossed the border. So documentation, as it is true that UNHCR does not do enough, but that is the only organization that provides documentation to our people as a refugee status. But that is not recognized by the government, and government has stopped providing long-term visa to our people since 2018 as the government decides to deport our people. Deportation was there for 3 groups and mass deportation is on hold, and there are more than 500 people in detention, and there are cases of trafficking, and girls were victim of, girls were sold into prostitutions and bond labor. These are very big problems our people facing. All over, our people are under the mercy of God, in Arabic, which we say, Fi Sabilillah.
Thank you very much, Ali. Thank you for the clear message about the situation over there, for enlightening us. One of the things about the very basic thing that we take granted for is communication. what we talk about interpreters. The female interpreters are very, very crucial for females, for the benefit of the audience here. I started working with the refugees about 16 years ago. I realized how important it is to have a female interpreters and to able to express themselves without, putting their things in, put it without limit, about the cultural barriers in expressing their feelings and their issues. However, also there are questions, and the question button at the bottom of the screen, you hit the button, you can put the questions. Your questions can be general questions to all the panelists, or you could ask specifically to any panelist here as well. Now, we would like to, I want to introduce Mr. Lwin to the audience again. Mr. Lwin, you have been active, you have been working with the Rohingya, or documenting the Rohingya issues since you left the country. It's almost 2 decades now. And you're still very active. I think if arguably, a lot of people would say you are one of the most reliable information source for the Rohingya community. So would you please elaborate or tell us a little bit about what is going on in Myanmar with the Rohingya people in this situation, in the pandemic situation? Mr. Lwin.
Thank you. First of all, thanks to the ISI team for co-hosting this important webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, let me start with the question. Why is Myanmar trying to bring back some refugees from Bangladesh without involving the Bangladesh government or the UN agency they signed an agreement with in late 2017? Last month, they brought at least 80 Rohingya Muslim and a Hindu from Bangladesh. Among them, 8 have tested apparently positive for coronavirus. As all patients remain without symptoms, we doubt whether they really are infected. After the official announcement of the first COVID-19 positive case, some local Rakhine Buddhists organized a protest in Maundo. Local authority added to this by saying that the returnee entered illegally. The protest was designed to create tension between community. Thankfully, it didn't have an impact, as most people are well aware of the gain Myanmar government engages in. The most serious violation against the patient is the township prosecutor himself publicized the personal detail of the patient over social media. Local lawmakers have visited the quarantine facility and assisted with basic necessity. However, Rohingya were left out. Not surprisingly, the government isn't providing support for Rohingya who are under quarantine. This is nothing but clear discrimination based on ethnicity and religion. On a positive note, a committee formed by all community in Maundo Township is providing basic necessity, including food. The first Rohingya case was observed in Maundo, but it isn't the first case in Rakhine State. 2 Rakhine Buddhists tested positive for coronavirus in Tandwe and Tongop Township. Yet the local authority, local media, including foreign service media, have been trying to spread specific hatred against Rohingya. The propaganda is very predictable. Bengali, that is their Sulu word for Rohingya, have entered Myanmar illegally and have brought coronavirus. Consequently, hate speech against Rohingya over social media is steadily increasing. In terms of awareness about coronavirus, the people in downtown area are well informed, but that is not the case in the rural area. The internet has been shut down for more than a year in some town. This is affecting all communities. The election is going to be held this November. Therefore, both ruling and opposition parties see this an opportunity to speak out against Rohingya. Both parties can potentially worsen the situation at any time in order to compete for vote. Coronavirus has given them a handle to do so. It is now over 5 months since the International Court of Justice ordered Rohingya to be seen as a protected group and to ensure no further attack on them take place. However, the situation on the ground hasn't changed. Dozens of Rohingya were killed and injured amid fighting between the Myanmar military and Arakan army. Arakan army represents Rakhine Buddhists. Sometimes Rohingya are targeted by Myanmar military and some Rohingya were shot dead from very close range. Restriction of movement for Rohingya in Myanmar is far worse than the lockdown we have been known in Europe since early March. Rohingya are forced to take national verification card, which we call the genocide card at security checkpoint. Extortion, harassment, torture, arbitrary arrests are all still in place. There is limited access to education and healthcare. Government is pressuring the refugee in the concentration camp to accept permanent settlement near the camp. It means they will never get back their land, which were burned to the ground in 2012. Let me turn to the Thailand and the forgotten refugee there. There are at least 600 Rohingya in detention, and they have been for years. At least 38 Rohingya detainees at Songkhla Immigration Detention Center became infected. In Thailand, there are over 1 million Myanmar nationals from different ethnic backgrounds who have been working there for decades. Although they enter illegally, the Myanmar embassy in Bangkok issued them a certificate of identity. Thai authority issued them work permit, but the Rohingya who have a strong evidence of Myanmar citizenship are being denied the same certificate by the Myanmar embassy. So all Rohingya in Thailand are without work permit, living as illegal. They are not able to access services. In this COVID-19 crisis, they have no opportunity to access public health care as they don't have health insurance. Thai immigration have deported 13 Rohingya from Chokto since last year through the land border. Worryingly, none of them have arrived home yet. Just a few days ago, Thai immigration tried to deport 6 Rohingya, but Myanmar denied them entry. They are now in a detention center. These hundreds of Rohingya in Thai detention center should be released. In the context of the pandemic and their lack of right, UNHCR must arrange third country resettlement. In terms of Saudi Arabia, many Rohingya fled to Saudi Arabia since the persecution started in earnest in the 1970s. Today, there are more than 300,000 residing there. The Saudi government have not released any figure about COVID-19 infection and Rohingya. We are totally in the dark, but my contacts have said as many as 200 to 300 have been infected and dozens have died. Although the government is helping them for treatment and quarantine facility, most of them are suffering financial hardship in the lockdown. This concludes my summary of the situation in Myanmar, Thailand, and Saudi Arabia. Regrettably, the situation is uncertain and worrying. Lack of right and protection mean that there is continuing human suffering, and all this is happening in the gaze of the world. All of you know about the Black Lives Matter. The global citizens are showing their solidarity with this movement. No matter what the cause, during COVID-19 crisis, they all went on the street to show their stand and solidarity with Black people. Being a member of an oppressed community, I will always stand with Black people. In this context, to bring about an end to the ongoing genocide against the Rohingya, your solidarity is extremely important. We want to see crowd on the street in all countries chanting for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brother Mr. Lwin. You know, it seems, you know, everywhere, like the minorities are the one who are most, you know, vulnerable to get affected and spreading the virus. It seems in Myanmar, the minorities being blamed, and also in Bangladesh, in the camps. We have seen, because of the Rohingya, we could probably get more virus in the country, and also in India. And in Malaysia as well. In Malaysia, there was a big outbreak of the hate campaign against Rohingya, saying that Rohingyas are the one who's spreading the virus. Having said that, one of our panelists, Hafsar is a human rights defender. She's an activist for child marriage and especially the vulnerable women and refugees and statelessness. She's been working in Malaysia since 2011, and then she's in New Zealand now. She's continuously working closely with her colleagues in Malaysia. Hafsar, can you please tell us a little bit about the situation in Malaysia after COVID-19?
Thank you. Thank you for having me here tonight. Yes, as we all have seen, COVID-19 has challenged and affected people from different communities, countries, and people from different socioeconomic and immigration status. We all tried our best to keep ourselves and loved ones safe. The government tried to keep their people safe by shutting down their borders. Unfortunately, the stateless people and migrants, asylum seekers and refugees cannot afford to do so, or they do not have the capacity to keep themselves safe, or to stay free from concern of having enough food, enough money to pay rent, or to continue to survive during MOC period, as they are not entitled to have any social welfare support due to the immigration status. So if we're gonna talk about this, it's gonna take another session. So today, I would like to talk about specifically how COVID-19 has affected Rohingyas from Malaysia, followed by a couple of unfortunate incidents of both carrying hundreds of Rohingyas tendering in the sea, being detained and sent back to the sea or to Bangladesh. And also, as you have mentioned, the sudden and unexpected hate campaign and xenophobia against Rohingyas on social media, and how all this negatively impact Rohingyas in Malaysia. So when MOC started in Malaysia on 15th of March, many Rohingyas were worried to keep themselves and their loved ones safe during this lockdown, like other people around the world. However, their concern was not only that, since there were many uncertainty about how they are gonna survive during this lockdown, as many Rohingyas, almost every Rohingya's family were depending on their daily and weekly wages. So as the consequences of the online hate campaign and xenophobia against Rohingya, which has started in April 2020, following the false accusation that Rohingyas are now demanding citizenship in Malaysia, has put Rohingya in a more vulnerable situation. The immigration raid, arrest, detention of Rohingyas and other Muslims from Myanmar had been conducted, women and men and put in prison in holy month of Ramadan. Although we understand that Malaysia government was taking actions for the protection of their people concerning their Rohingyas are now being threat to locals Malaysian, my concern from the perspective of a human rights defender and activist is, was this the only option, and was that the right time for Malaysian government to conduct such raid, arrest and detention, when everyone around the world was trying to keep social distancing, staying in their bubbles to prevent themselves from being exposed to COVID-19? Is this really gonna keep Malaysia safe or make safer by keeping these vulnerable people who had once experienced unimaginable persecution and escape from those from their land and trying to survive in this country? And also, while international communities, NGOs and INGOs are trying and working on to find sustainable and durable solution for Rohingyas, should the Malaysia government have taken action against such an invalid and inappropriate hate campaign and xenophobia against vulnerable groups in their own state, simply because we have witnessed in the history and at present time, xenophobia never bring us any positive changes, not to our communities, not to our society. Instead, it always led us to hate, massacre, and bloodshed. As the state and a government, could Malaysia have responded to this issue better by really looking at the factual status about refugees' contribution to this country as human resources and within other capacities? Although there are always a few or some good or bad people in all communities, shouldn't that particular individuals be taken actions for the things that they have done instead of holding the entire community accountable, including the innocent children and women? As the consequences of those following unfortunate incidents, employers are now refusing to hire Rohingyas. And the recent statement from Bandaraya, Malaysia, that mentioned not to allow Rohingyas to be at wet market at all, not even for shopping, has now put Rohingyas from Malaysia in hopeless and desperate situation for their survival. Saying so, I would like to read a statement of Rohingyas from Malaysia. This is from a man, 40 years old, from KL, a Rohingya man. He said, "First, we were made stateless in our own country. Then we were constantly persecuted and dehumanized. And we took the risky journey. Some of us died on the way. Some of us made it here to Malaysia. Alhamdulillah, at least we were surviving here. We had a roof over our head and food on our table. But now we do not know where to go and how to survive. Perhaps we all will die soon from hunger, assault, and harassment." And another Rohingya woman, 30 years old, from KL, Malaysia, has stated that we thought we finally found a place we can live and survive before we can go back to our land. Now we have to live in fear about arrest and detention. We have no money to feed our little ones, no money to pay rent. My husband cannot work because his employer refused to hire him back after all this. I do not know how long we will survive. I do not know what is our fault either. So United Nations investigators have defined Rohingyas' situation as textbook example of ethnic cleansing, and the Rohingyas as one of the most persecuted minority in the world. I also want to mention about this little paragraph from the article of Human Rights Report 2014. As a United Nations member state, Malaysia has affirmed acceptance of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, whose provisions are broadly accepted to reflect customary international law. 192, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights uphold the fundamental rights and freedoms that are due to every individual on the basis of their being human. All human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights, and are protected from discrimination, arbitrary interference in privacy, family and home, arbitrary arrest and detention, and torture and ill treatment. 193, everyone also has rights to freedom of expression, association, peaceful assembly, religion, and movement. UNHCR, IOM, and UNODC has urged Malaysia government at their joint statement published on 6th of May 2020 as follows. States can and should ensure that our common concerns relating to public health and security are met with a reaffirmation of solidarity and compassion. We encourage states to draw upon the Global Compact for Migration and Global Compact for Refugees to promote a sustainable and comprehensive response to the movement of refugees and migrants. Now, although I have read all these things, I just would like to say that we do appreciate that Malaysia has always been upfront in supporting Rohingyas as an ASEAN member country, either in advocacy or providing direct and emergency support to Rohingyas. Always. We're also aware of the challenges the Malaysia government has in dealing with the current Rohingya situation in Malaysia right now. However, again, from the perspective of human rights, we hope Malaysia will be able to consider responding this humanitarian crisis in better ways in collaboration with the United Nations, INGOs, NGOs, activists, advocates, and the communities by which it will not put the marginalized and vulnerable communities into more vulnerable and risky situation. As Brother Nisalin has mentioned, the unfortunate incidents of George Floyd from the United States and COVID-19 have awakened us, many of us from different communities, and make us realize and do a lot of reflection. The racism and xenophobia that we thought no more exists in the world are still around here. It's always been there, it is still here. And we had many historical events where people were treated in humane way and dehumanized because they belong to certain faith, race, or colors. Every single time we think about it, every single time we revisit about those examples, these incidents always horrified us. We always thought about how can it be done to other human beings by other human beings. As of now, we are living in the 21st century in this civilized generation. I hope we now can and will make conscious decision about how we see our world, how we respond to the humanitarian crisis around us, so that we can end xenophobia and humanitarian crisis in this generation. Our next generation will live in a world free from fear, persecution, and xenophobia. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Hafsar. Very powerful. Yes, you know, in Malaysia, the situation in Malaysia currently has been blown out of proportion, I must say. Though Rohingya refugees had been living in Malaysia for many decades. It's almost 3 to 4 decades now, in fact, and has been one of the few places where they find security. However, you know, this current situation has put a lot of life in risk at the moment. For just later today, actually, we got news that a lot of Rohingya refugees are, you know, at the risk of becoming homeless because they can't afford to pay rent anymore because they have been denied job. So, having said this, the last panelist, not least, Yasminullah. Yasminullah was born in Rakhine State, Arakan, and she lived most of her childhood in Thailand. And now she is currently living in Canada and has been engaging with many issues throughout the globe, locally and internationally. And Yasmin, please enlighten us a bit the whole overall situation of the Rohingya people who are, you know, the victims of genocide and as well as the victim of prejudice, if I may, in the countries where they are seeking refuge or asylum. Who is yours, Yasmin?
Thank you very much. I would like to first thank the organizers, Free Rohingya Coalition, ISI, for inviting me to be part of this discussion. I'm extremely grateful to be able to share some of the things that I've learned with the audience, and I very much look forward to any question or concerns that you might have. Since my topic is on the international response to the Rohingya crisis in general, which also includes the response to the pandemic outbreak, I would like to point out a few narratives or frame of thoughts that the international community uses in their approach to the issue of the Rohingya genocide. And one very important theme is that, and I have observed this for the past 3 years, working with the community and with various groups of allies, it is that oftentimes at the policy level, the issues of Rohingya human rights violations are seen as a separate subject to the need for humanitarian support or rehabilitation of the community. Now, I usually witness these discussions in an either or fashion, not both at the same time. And the reason why this is important to highlight is because when both angles of our crisis or crises are thought of as separate subjects, the approach to any resolution or the approach to any resolution consequently becomes misguided or ill-informed. For example, when the process of accountability takes place, the community is often encouraged to not bring up relevant concerns around livelihood or inefficiency to the humanitarian aid. The boat crisis is also another very good example of this. When nation states in the region assess the issue that have come, to them, it is often viewed as the problem of illegal entry and not as direct result of the inadequate humanitarian support, empowerment of refugee leadership, lack of education or autonomy over one's lives, and many, many more factors that are involved. Hence why at the international level, there is often this unwillingness and inability to think outside the box in creating other avenues in resolving the crises after crises that our community face, apart from what is already existing in the UN system or other parcel of the international community in dealing with these issues. Many nation states, unfortunately, have conveniently forgotten that the genocide of our people are not carried out by us. We were victimized by those in power who were supposed to look out for us. We are not the one causing the pain or the discomfort or the plight that we're living in right now. But it feels as if we are being blamed for being the victims. Because the international community separates these two, the human rights issues and the humanitarian efforts, we are often neglected and excluded when the discussions take place on the responsibility that the international community has over our lives and our losses. So this is not to dismiss or undermine any efforts or initiatives that have been taken by various countries. Of course, as a community that has been described over and over as the most persecuted minority on earth, we are very much grateful for whatever relief and help that we have gotten. However, the narratives that we need to be saved or the obsession over defining Rohingya as victims and no more has slowly morphed into the apathy to help, the apathy to continue any further discussion or conversation of what we actually need as a community to thrive, not just survive. It takes very, very little to keep humans alive, but it takes a lot more effort to ensure that this community actually flourishes and live up to its potential. Now, unfortunately, throughout my limited experience, there are very little genuine interest that come from various different actors in the international community in supporting the community to further find their place in the world. The sense of apathy is intensified further with the outbreak of COVID-19 globally. Now, as my co-panelists have already pointed out very brilliantly, the withdrawal of the attentiveness to our plight or the support that is dwindling away puts Rohingya in even graver risk of re-victimization. In the case of sexual and gender-based violence, it's true to the human trafficking issues. There are many other fallouts that can be traced back directly to decades long oppression by the military and its institutions. Now, it seems that without acknowledging or the acknowledgement from the global community that it has failed Rohingya in its responsibility to protect and prevent genocide, protect Rohingya from atrocities, and the renewed sense of obligation to support the community and rehabilitate our community, the Rohingya will continue to suffer the effects of genocide as if it has never ended. And I think that a lot of, when we talk to refugees, when we talk to people who have gone through terrible oppressions in their lives, they're still reliving it in every moment just because the condition of their lives or the livelihood situation has not improved in any way, shape, or form. The other part of this that I want to highlight is there's another side of this on accountability approach or efforts that are being, put in place by various actors. For example, at the ICJ, the Gambia has postponed, and it had to postpone its report submission while Myanmar took advantage of the global crises when the nation states are overwhelmed with the management of the pandemic, and it has really further violated the ICJ order to protect Rohingya, and it is very likely getting away with a lot more crimes against other ethnic communities that we probably don't know of. It is also moving forward undetected with its agenda to brush off or quash any allegation of genocide, framing it into something that is that it thinks would soften the blow, but this is done by redefining the atrocities that have been committed by the military as a war crime or crimes against humanity instead, which carry a lot less weight in terms of the legislation and the technicality or the arguments that might occur in the court. In short, it is really important to emphasize that Myanmar has ratified only the Convention of Prevention of Genocide in the year 1948, and it has not ratified the Convention on War Crimes or Crimes Against Humanity. This is potentially the reason why any reports or committee or any entity to investigate the human rights violation against Rohingya that Myanmar tried to initiate all use this exact same language: crimes against humanity, not genocide. Even though we live in a very connected world and there are creative ways that the various actors in the international justice mechanism are pursuing, we can't really deny that these efforts are being stalled with the effects of global pandemic and the halt in traveling. So in conclusion, as the UN Special Rapporteur, Professor Yang Hee Lee, had said at one point, that the situation of the Rohingya is in no way a humanitarian crisis, as the term has been widely used and really saturated. Rather, this is a human rights crisis. And I would add that it is a vicious cycle of crises that have cornered us as a community and have gravely impacted our mindset and ability to think of a better life or of a better future. It is not just the cut and dry type of accountability that the community so engulfed in trauma like ours would need. It is also tangible humanitarian support and capacity building and many other restorative measures that we need. I think that it is time for us to reflect a little bit more on the process of the international accountability and, various other, factors like humanitarian support. Survivors and those at risk of re-victimization cannot wait forever for justice. And this trauma has already entrenched, within our own existence. And I would like to suggest that when we think about justice, or when we think about transforming the community, we really need to think about restorative and transformative justice. And it most certainly cannot be reached by Myanmar, given the status quo with its current constitution and many other problematic factors that are playing into our plight. It will continue to allow the military to veto any positive changes. It is at least, clear to me that the changes will not come from the outside. It has to come, through the reclaiming of the power by the people of Myanmar. And it also has to come from, from the international community supporting us in truly rehabilitating us. And I would like to end it here. If you have any question, please feel free to reach out.
Thank you very much, Yasmin. Really great presentation. And this is very important to understand the victim blaming games. And you rightly point out, the human rights crisis created by other humans is a man-made crisis. It's just not just happened naturally. And by by blaming the victim itself, the problem is not going to stop. You have to blame those who are creating this crisis and take them to accountability. That's what part of the solution should be. But thank you very much for the presentation, all the panelists. Thank you very much. And we also have a lot of questions. MashaAllah, we have 30 minutes left, and I will try to get the similar questions to, group them together and put to the panelists. I think our first question would be come from Sucharita Sangupta, the PhD candidate in Geneva. He said, I have heard about limitation of mobile phone usage in the camp. By the way, this is to Razia Sultana. In the camp since September, do you think this is to reduce connection and exchange of information with the international community? Does this mean more civilians in the camps now, and have that also impacted victims in general, and work for women volunteers in spreading consciousness in the current situation regarding the sanitation and so on? That's for Razia.
Thank you so much, Suchitra, for asking me the question. I already wrote it down, but in the last year, the communication is now very low, and after the COVID issue, it's become more worse now. It's like now the camp communication and outside, even the abroad, we cannot connecting with the camp people. What is their situation? No one can explain very well, because what we get is from the frontliner who are maybe in front of the camp, or who are the volunteers, some volunteer who have some connection with the Cox's Bazar or the Chittagong. But especially for the internet shutdown is totally cutting our communication with our Rohingya people and with the NGOs, agencies, and our diaspora leaders. I don't know the diaspora leaders, they can reach their information to the camp or not, but for me personally, I cannot. I have to use some media. I have to use some local and some volunteer to reach the information. So it is the very difficult for us, for the communication with these people and in this situation, and they cannot share anything with us directly. What we know for some source, it is not the relevant. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Sultana, Raja Sultana. And the next question, I'm just going to go very quickly with the question, so we only have about 30 minutes, and we're trying to get as many questions answered. So this is for Ali Johar. What kind of redressal mechanism are available for Rohingya women living in India, especially in Delhi, to enable them to report instance of domestic violence, especially during lockdown? And are Rohingya facing difficulty to access government hospital due to lack of the Aadhaar card? Is the government of India still issuing LTVS on the UNHCR refugee cards? Ali, that's for you. Ali, are you there?
Sorry. Thanks for the question.
Yes, Ali, good.
Sorry for the inconvenience. Thanks for the questions. For domestic violence and all this to report for women. Actually, there is mechanism from UNHCR with implementing partners. They are regularly following up with the victims, and if there is possible any case. In terms of accessing government health facilities, Home Ministry has issued a regulation, a circulation to all the state government to ensure no Rohingyas left without screening. So in Delhi, there was a screening happen to all the people, which is a good news for our people. And there was health camps as well from the government. There was some government, including Delhi government, which has helped with in terms of rations and all. In the case of documentation, like getting UNHCR card or LTV,
I think you are having trouble with your connection.
Yeah, there was a little trouble with my connection. In the case of a refugee card, getting refugee card renewed or getting refugee status and getting LTV, UNHCR has created a mechanism through online, but that is not accessible for all the community because our people, most of our people, they don't know how to use internet or email. So that can be a difficult task for most of our people to renew their refugee card. And in terms of LTV, government has stopped providing LTV long-term visa to our people since 2018, in the beginning of 2018, after government has announced they are listing our people to deport back to Myanmar in the Parliament of India in 2017.
Thank you, Ali, for the answers. Now to Nisa Lwin. It's come from Suzanne Banki. Nisa Lwin, thank you for this incredible thorough report, very sobering and an inspiring speech. You have discussed the official return of a few Rohingya to Myanmar. Is there still movement in the other direction, example, from Myanmar to Bangladesh? If so, what are the implications, COVID-19, of this movement at the current time? Mr. Lwin.
Yeah, thank you, Shuja, and thanks, Susan, for asking your question. So let me clarify, there is no such official return exists since the Rohingya 750,000 Rohingya fled to Bangladesh in 2017. As I mentioned, in late 2017, Myanmar government and the Bangladesh government and also UN agency have signed the agreement for the repatriation, but Myanmar has been claiming that they have brought about 600 so-called Rohingya have been returned to Myanmar, but they were not returned officially because, you know, if they want to return officially, they should return through the UNHCR and the Bangladesh government. But these people secretly, they brought back those people they have business with, you know, because some of the Rohingya do the business with, bribe the local authority, they do the business with the military and the Boragat police. Though, as Myanmar want to bring back some people and want to show the international community that, you know, the people are willing to come back, so they approach their old business partner through the people they know. Finally, they have got a few hundred, you know. This is an official, and there is no such official return exit since the time that people left. So another one question is, since the fighting are going on between the Myanmar embassy, Myanmar military and the Arakan army since late 2018, Rohingya have been targeted by the Myanmar military. So some Rohingya try to flee to Bangladesh, but Bangladesh have has closed the border. They were not allowed to get in. And also from the Rakhine Buddhist community, they have also tried to get the shelter in Bangladesh, but the border was closed. That is why they could not get into the Bangladesh. So that the border is completely closed. And also Myanmar has officially announced that they will keep the border closed during this pandemic. But still, since they got about 81 Hindu and the Rohingya Muslim last month, they have brought them, and finally, now they are playing with those returnee, as if they have the coronavirus. But since the patient have been not showing the symptom, we really doubt whether they really are infected. Thank you.
Thank you, Nisabet, for clarifying that. It's very important. But now this is the answer. Sorry, a question to Hafsar. Is there any discussion at all about resettlement as a durable solution for Rohingya? And what about repatriation to Myanmar? Do you think the overall increasing crisis Rohingya are facing in different countries will result in more Rohingya agreeing to repatriate to Myanmar? Hafsar.
Thank you. I think the first bit of the question is about, is there any discussion about resettlement, increasing the number of resettlement specifically for Rohingyas? But in my knowledge, until today, I have never heard of having durable solution as resettlement specifically for Rohingya. In my understanding, whenever UNHCR have that cohort of resettlement refugees at like only 1% of refugees worldwide resettling to other countries. Unfortunately, at the moment, the resettling numbers are going low, and I don't have any latest information about increasing Rohingya refugees number of resettlement to other countries, and I don't think it is the solution for us. And the second question is about repatriation.
Yes.
Sorry, and I forgot the second part. Repatriation, like Brother Nisali have mentioned, it has to be in a way that guarantee and that make us feel secure to be able to go back. And in that way, we all will be able to agree. And I have always spoken about this at every occasion that I have chances to speak for, because we are now experiencing this kind of incidents, not now. It has been there like 4 decades ago, 5 decades ago. We have generation who have experienced the same kind of atrocity, who have left from the country, who have been outside of the country, who were promised for a certain degree of security and to be back to Burma. They were back and faced the same atrocity again, and they have to leave again. So this time, it has to be in a way that assure the security and protection of the entire Rohingya community by recognizing them as the citizen of the country will be the only way, I guess. And what is the last bit of the question? I'm sorry about it.
Pretty much, is it possible to be, to go back to your country, repatriation?
Yeah, it will only be possible, like I said, if we have those secure and protection and assured in a very official way, and being guaranteed that you will be safe this time. And if we have those kind of people or parties and agencies in the states who will protect us and who will protect the lives of all these Rohingyas people.
Thank you. Thank you. I guess to add to the answers a little bit here, I'll take the privilege. I guess there is, the situation it was when they had to leave has not changed. Therefore, they have there will be not an option to go back to the situation that has compelled them to leave in the first place, I guess. So now the next question to Yasmin is from Shita Duta. Sorry if I mispronounce your name here. Really appreciate this forming of the situation as a human rights crisis and not only a humanitarian crisis. Would love to hear your thoughts on what transformative and restorative justice for the community might look like. Yasmin. Thank you to all the panelists for the powerful intervention. Yasmin, that was to you. Hello, Yasmin, are you there? Hello, Yasmin. I think we have lost Yasmin in the connection, so we can wait for her to come back. So let's go back to the second question. I have 15 more minutes, so I could probably go for another round quickly. For Razia, Sultan again, you started speaking about the boat crisis. This is a very serious issue that seems to be repeating history over and over again. Can you elaborate more on the current situation? And according to the media report, some Rohingya has been transferred to Basanchar remote island. Is this true? And what is the situation there?
Thank you for asking me this question. About the Basanchar Island, yes, government and UNHCR together, they sent 300 people from the beginning. And now the other people there is not sending in the island. And some people still in the sea, and some people try to be leave the Bangladesh territory. They don't want to come back in Bangladesh. So I think for the Indonesia and Malaysia issue, again they are trying to go there. But about the Bangladesh issue, the Basanchar Island, it's about for stating, and also very you can say it's not good at all, because if these people are sent, but there is no guarantee when they will come back, because the situation, COVID issue is very serious issue is now in the Cox's Bazar, all over the Teknaf, even the Chittagong. So in this moment, no one is thinking about the island people. They're thinking about their own territory and own people, even not too much concentrate about in the camp issue, about the testing the coronavirus issue. So I think this issue is ignorable still. No one is tell anything about the island issue, not yet now. So I think.
Thank you.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sultana. Well, we can finish your answers if there is more to add. But thank you very much for the answer. I think the questioner got the answers. Now, for Ali from Tapan Kumar Bose, I think the first part of the question is already answered in the first answer. But the second part of the question is, are the Rohingya refugees in Delhi getting free rations from which the governments claim to be distributing among all people in need? That's for Ali. Hello? Ali, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Did you get the question? Okay.
Yeah, I got it. Thanks, Tapan sir, for these questions. In Delhi so far, we have contacted with the government authorities, relief fund, and there were 2 or 3 drives of ration distribution for Rohingya refugees in Delhi. But for other states like Haryana, Jammu Kashmir, and Hyderabad, there was no such case. There was only community-based organization and other local organization who have supported in the minimal state. One thing I have forgot to mention, like in the case of detention, actually, which is the biggest concern and deportation we are facing. Like in the case of detention, as there are more than 500 people still there in detention since, who have crossed border since 2012, 13, 14, even before. So to release such these refugees from detention, they need 3 things. One thing is refugee status, which is very problematic. UNHCR does not intervene most of the time. And other thing is UNHCR testimony as at the court, which is never been happened, and a lenient judge, of course, to understand the crisis in a humanitarian way. So there have been cases of release as well with the intervention of particular individual private lawyer, but as there is no one to take responsibility for these people, including UNHCR, such case goes ignored.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ali. Now, this is from Mongzani, and the question is very political as expected. And of course, this is to Lwin. Mongzani said, Rakhine state has been shaped by triangular politics among Central Burmese regime, the Buddhist majority Rakhine, and Muslim majority Rohingyas. In his recent interview, the leader of the AA Arkan Army, the Rakhine Buddhist majority in Rakhine state, said, the best, quote, the best solution is to stay in harmony, to help each other. We will support the Rohingya and help to punish the perpetrators who committed mass atrocities against the Muslim in Rakhine state. Now, how did the Rohingya community receive his conciliatory message? Do the panelists have any reaction to it? Mr. Lwin.
Thank you, Kozani, for asking this question. It is actually very, very important for us because this is not the first time from the Major General Tomianai, who is the chief of the Arkan Army. I have listened to a few of his interviews with the ARD and also the BBC Burmese. He has used the term, this Rohingya, a few times in the past and now. For us, calling us Rohingya is honoring us, recognizing our identity because, in Myanmar, everyone is calling us the Bengali, which is the racial slur for us. So this is really a good message from him because we have lived peacefully together for centuries. Yes, we had the problem in 1942, and 70 years later in 2012, we had another one problem. That those problems were created by the Burmese regime. In 1942, if you study the history, you will learn that these were the pre-plan and created by the Burma. And in 2012 also, everyone will know that this was created to divert the attention of the pipeline, the gas pipeline they have built from Chowpyu to Yunnan. So it has been 8 years now, more than around 150,000 Rohingya refugees are in the concentration camp. They should return to home. In 2016 and 2017, during the so-called clearance operation, some of the Rakhine collaborated with the Burmese regime, but now their suffering is same like the Rohingya since after the fighting broke up between the Myanmar military and the Arkan Army, and Myanmar is committing the war crime and the crime against humanity against them. So they realize, who is the common enemy. So this is the time to talk about our future. This is not the time to talk about our past. We should forget our past and we should move forward for the better future. At the end of the day, in Rakhine state or the Arkan state, we Rohingya and Rakhine have to live together peacefully. We have to build the future of our generation. If we fight each other, we will not reach anywhere. The Rakhine state or the Arkan state will remain the most poorest state in Myanmar. So this is the message from the Major General Tomiana is really encouraging. And also in his message, there is the solidarity message for us that, he is going to help for the to punish the perpetrator. Already they are helping by releasing a few video over the social media that, you know, they have captured the soldier, interview them. Even whenever they use the term for us, you know, they use very carefully. We really thank this Arkan Army leadership. Hopefully we can work together to build the better future for the Arkanese people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lwin. And of course, this is going to be a process, and I hope the Mongzani is going to be involved in this process of talk and dialogue with the Rakhine brothers. And next, I guess we can ask 2 more questions in the next 5 minutes. I'll put this one to Hafsar. I think this is a very important one. From Hannah Wadzis. Okay, that's I can't pronounce. It's a German name, I think. Lwin has to pronounce this. Anyway, so the question is, Hannah, I'm just going to put the first name. To Hafsar, what, in your opinion, are the best ways in which NGOs, governments, and ordinary people can support the Rohingya without victimizing them? That's an interesting one, I guess. Hafsar.
Thank you, Hannah, for this question. It is an interesting question, and also thank you for thinking of walking alongside on this journey with us. And it is really important as the way how international communities have been showing solidarity against this incident of George Floyd in every country. It can be like the kind of motivation that we have, the kind of contribution that we want to do as an individual, as an NGO and an organization. It can be infectious. We need to have those kind of things. As a community, which has been always deprived from different rights from our country, being a stateless and deprived from citizens, so many things. We need a lot of capacity and alliance and support from outside, and while we are working as well. So as an individual, as an NGO, there are so many things that you can do, so much more. For the first thing is you even thinking of doing something. That is the main thing. And the second thing is really seeing your capacity, what you have to offer, or what you have and what we have that we can work on together as an NGO, as an activist, as the other public sector. And this journey for the Rohingyas is not gonna be like, I will not say it's gonna happen tomorrow overnight, not in next month, not in 10 years. It unfortunately is a long journey that we have to work on. And we appreciate your contribution. And of course, wherever you are right now, there will be Rohingyas, since we are everywhere in the world, and you can talk to that individual, you can try to reach the Rohingya organization and see how you can cooperate with us and collaborate for this cause. And thank you so much. You are muted, brother.
Brother Shuja, you are muted. You are muted.
Sorry, okay, got it now. Yasmin, thank you very much, Hafsar. Yasmin, are you there now? Are you back?
Yes, I am back. So sorry.
Oh, great.
Laptop.
That's okay. That's okay, Gadgets. This question is directed to you, Yasmin, from Mansoor Alam. That we have long been lobbying, demanding, and approaching some powers and actors. We could have influenced the situation to make it better for Rohingyas. However, as we know, the situation continues to worsen. Is it time for us to rethink, reframe, and redirect our energy, resources, and approach to new actors and powers? For example, who would have, thought a small country like Gambia would take up this tough fight?
So to answer the question, yes and no. There is definitely a space and a time for us to lobby international community, various actors that are sitting at various discussion table, making policies and determining basically what our future would be like. But it is also as important, if not more, for us to put our energy into harnessing and harboring more support from laymen, people who might not know a thing or two about Rohingya issue, might not even know who Rohingya are. These are the kind of people that we need to approach as activists, as advocates. We need to start thinking along the line of, how do we create, the soft power that other world leaders or anyone else would then align themselves with us. We don't have enough individuals or people who are visible as Rohingya, in the world stage. There might be some, but there hasn't been that celebration of like, hey, this is the Rohingya, he or she is a genocide survivor, and they've come this far, they've been celebrated. There should be some sort of, soft power individual and entity like that. At the same time, in our advocacy, in our activism, we really need to start thinking about how to utilize, various tools that we see being used in, for example, the Black Lives Matters movement, and various other movements that are incredibly successful in garnering support, in making sure that people care and continue to care. I think that we are still lacking as a community in that department, without saying that everything that we've done is incredibly futile. It's not that. Everything that we are going to put into the work is all going to bear fruit at some point, but lobbying from top down is not going to be the only way out. We're going to have to creatively think about other ways to harness the support and really rethink about how we could rebuild this community ourselves as well from within. Thank you.
Thank you, Yasmin. And I hope Mansoor got the answer, satisfying answer. Now, your last question I put it to you again is from Ishita Dutta. Really appreciate this framing of the situation as human rights crisis and not only a humanitarian crisis. Would love to hear your thoughts on what transformative and restorative justice for the community might look like.
So, thank you. Thank you for that question. I think that first step is to include Rohingya into those discussion table, into various discussions along the line of what does justice look like, what does international mechanism of accountability looks like, what should it answer to, who should it answer to, what should it do in order to rehabilitate victims, empower them, empower the community to be able to rebuild themselves, for us to be able to reimagine the lives past beyond the point that we are the genocide victims. And that will require a lot of meetings, a lot of organizing. And I don't have a direct answer of what transformative and restorative justice would look like, because I think that should come collectively from the community, because justice would look like one thing for me, but it might look like a different thing for another person who's just gone through something very different. Even though it's communal, genocide is very communal, it passed through generations, but it has various different effects on different people. Now, restorative justice, one part of it should be allowing the community or putting more power or amplifying the voices of the community. That's the least that it, the very, very, very first step of the restorative justice. But it also should continue to harbor more power and investment into the community, and that could look like an educational projects, an empowerment training, or a continuous support from various different organization through humanitarian support or educational initiatives, and these can just be something that has to do with how do we salvage, how do we continue to support the generation. And I saw one of the questions was talking about lost generation. It the problem with the word lost generation is that it puts the blame onto Rohingya. It puts the blame onto us as a generation that is lost, but it doesn't you know, direct us to the perpetrators. Now, what the international community needs to rethink is that restorative justice or transformative justice could not take place unless we actually change the mindset and you know, view the victims or the survivors a little bit differently as potential, as people full of potential, and you know, with the right kind of support, with the right kind of with the right kind of empowerment, they would then be able to have self-determination, choose what they want in life and how they would want to contribute back into the society. I hope that helps.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a quite elaborated answer. Now, we are actually going over the time a little bit, but I would like to hear the last, for each panelist to have a conclusion statement. I will put the two questions here, general questions, and you could also answer this in your concluding remarks. In fact, is the root cause of the conflict is the deprivation of Rohingyas' identity, their nationality, name, right, and self-determination, right to self-determination. I mean, if yes, what can be done to address it? The second question, this is to all panelists. In the short term, what improvement of Rohingya communities can realistically be achieved over the next 12 months? In the long term, what, in the speaker's opinion, will be a permanent solution for the Rohingya? Maybe, since you're on the screen, you could start your closing remarks by answering these questions too.
Yeah, from the first question, I think I can answer part. You know, this is not the conflict. The conflict is, you know, fighting between two groups. You know, so Rohingya has been suffering from this genocide since 1978, over 42 years now. So calling it like, you know, the conflict is something like, I think it is not completely suitable. So when you choose the term, you should be very careful. One, you know, the so-called, those powerful, you know, the official call it ethnic cleansing. We were very angry because, you know, it has the no legal definition, just to throw our suffering in trash. You know? So call it a spite, call it a spite, you know, this is a genocide. So, and also the permanent solution is, we are really tired, you know, saying, you know, what to do. All these powerful people, they know what they need to do to settle this problem, you know. Well, we should not tell them what to do. The problem is they have their own interest, that is their business. They don't really care, you know, what the million people are suffering. If these people who have the power, if they really care, you know, today, million of people, not only the Rohingya in Palestine, you know, in Kashmir, in China, you know, million of people are suffering. These all the things they can solve within an hour, but they are not solving because they have their own interests. You know, I'm really tired, you know, to tell you what is the permanent solution. The permanent solution is, they know that who are the criminal, who are the committing the crime. You know, they can take immediately action against those people committing the crime, you know, killing the thousands of people, 10 of thousands of people, you know. They know who are committing the crime. Still, they are not taking the, you know, action. And they were always talking about the action, you know, we will do this, we will do that, you know. This is all the lip service, you know. We are really tired, you know. We are the victim, we are the really suffering, you know. Our people are in the camp, you go and see them, you stay there for one night, you cannot stay, you know. Just, you know, I'm sorry for, you know, for my emotional, because these are my people, these are my blood, you know. I am not only, you know, feeling for my own people, I am sharing my sympathy with all the people across the world who are suffering. I think enough is enough. They know just a month ago, 3 brothers from the camp, they have posted their article on Frontier Myanmar. So I will read the quote, what they have written in their op-ed. For us, justice means going home as soon as possible. It means being given right and citizenship in Myanmar. It means security and the ability to call ourselves Rohingya. So what I want to say is, the permanent solution is that, we want to go back our home. We want to stay there as a human, as you do. And, we want to have the full citizenship. We want to, our identity should be recognized by the Myanmar or the Burma. This is not the new we are demanding. We are asking to restore our right. We were once recognized by the Burma as a citizen, as a indigenous ethnic group. My great-grandfather, Mr. Abdul Jalil, has received the letter from Minister for Justice that he belonged to the one of the indigenous ethnic group of Burma. We have mounting of the evidence. So I don't want to tell you this, what more the solution, because, really, we are very tired, enough is enough. If you can solve the problem, tell us. We will find our own. Thank you.
Sorry, thank you very much. But I just wanted to say, you don't have to apologize for your emotion. It is emotional issue for all of us. But now, Razia, Sultana, do you want to say a few words in closing remark? We have some time.
Thank you, Deslan. Thank you, Deslan, for the truth. People like me cannot express the emotion, but you have the, I'm sorry, when I was emotion. Rohingya is people, not only people, everyone have to think this people is not animal or not subhuman. We are the human. We deserve a normal life. And we are not getting our normal life for 42 years. What Nathan said, because after the 42, Rohingya are losing their rights, and now we are the end of the line, and these people stuck in a camp, and inside in the Myanmar also there is a lots of Rohingya. Every time they are fear about their life. We want our right. We want safety. We want to be a normal human being. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Razia. That is right. I mean, all the human beings, in principle, we always talk about it, but we always also single out the weak ones and the one those being persecuted. But okay, Ali, if you want to make a conclusion remark, the last remark. Ali Johar, are you there? All right, it's Hafsar. Are you there? Can you make?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, there you go. Sorry, yeah. Ali, go ahead.
Sorry. So, thanks for being here. Actually, the solution to our crisis, most of the people are thinking like, the solution is to work for Rohingyas. It is not like that actually, as my co-panelists described. It is actually working with us. The solution is there. So in Bangladesh, in India, in Malaysia, I have seen hatred against us. They are trying to blame us. So the solution is not there. The solution is not by hating us. The solution is by creating a conducive situation in our own state and our own land. We go back to our home with dignity, security, peace, and identity. And of course, all the human rights we deserve. We are human. We're not just from just moon or Mars, just fall down here. It's not like that. We are same human being with same blood and flesh. So if the Myanmar government is failing to create conducive situation for us, there must be alternative solution. I would like to call on international community to help us to create an alternative. Maybe it can be a separate state. There was no call. Still, there is no call from our people, but there should be a solution. If the Myanmar is not adhering, if Myanmar is not following the international communities, or if they are not ready to give us our right back, there should be alternate solution.
Yeah, thank you, Ali. If they are not willing to accept us as a part of the citizen of Myanmar, then give us our land back, which they have forcefully taken from us. That's fair to say. Okay, Hafsar, what is your conclusion remark? Concluding remarks.
As our sister Yasmin has mentioned, Rohingya issue is not just a humanitarian issue, it's a human rights issue. And maybe 50 years ago, or maybe 60 years ago, we have never dreamed of such atrocity against us. What is this telling us? It is not something that we will be like thinking, oh, it will never happen to us because we are not Rohingyas. It is another new form of inhumane atrocity against a group of humans. So this is my remark. If we don't want to see such kind of atrocity on this earth, we need to find a collective collaboration from different people, from different sectors to eradicate and eliminate it from this earth. We don't want it anymore. We don't want to see again and again history being repeated again and again. We don't want that. And it is possible with the collective responsibility of individuals, agencies, and communities and states. But saying so, we also have to consider about the meaningful participation of Rohingyas and the inclusions of Rohingyas on this journey.
Thank you. That's important. The participation of Rohingyas when you are making decision about Rohingya people. I think all the panelists are echoing this quite accurately. Now, Yasmin, last not the least, would you please conclude this session with your concluding?
I would like to first of all thank everybody who joined and who took part in making this possible. I'm really, really grateful to share, such a rich discussion and share the panel with so many distinguished Rohingya activists and advocates. I would like to leave both the Rohingya community and the participants with this. There has to be, new avenues and new ways that we forge forward if we really, really want to think and act upon the possible ways for us to sustainably live in peace. And this does not just apply to Rohingya, it applies to many other conflicts that are conflicts and genocides and mass atrocities that are happening all around the world. Specifically to the Rohingya issue though, is that I think that there has to be the representation of the Rohingya and the willful, inclusion of our advocacy and individuals that are working for the community. I don't think that it could come from, one savior or one person or, very specific groups of people. I think that it has to come from all of us. It also needs to include, and this is going to be a little bit controversial, it has to come from a very, very conscious effort that does not include women. Women bear the brunt of the genocide. We pass down the trauma from generation to generation. It lives through us, in many different ways. And we need to be involved in the determination of our future as much as the Rohingya men does. So in that same token, I think that this panel has been doing really well with, the equal representation of both gender, but I hope to see more of this. I hope to see more of, both men and women actually sitting down and discuss discussing what we need, what we want to do, what we want to contribute to our own community, as well as joining up with other movements, other global women movement that are like working really hard to diminish and really uproot and eradicate the the issue of misogyny and sexism and other intersectional issues. So what I would want to leave you with is that please support us in whatever way you can. If it's donation, please do that. If it's through your advocacy, if it's through your research, if it's through, some sort of expertise that you have, please do support us and reach out to, any of us to be able to, get some guidance. Or if you're already working in NGOs, please be conscious of the bias and the prejudice and the term and the definitions that come with, the top-down sort of lobbying or the top-down sort of legal definitions. And please do keep us in your prayer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yasmin. With that note, I actually would like to take the privilege of being moderator today on behalf of all the audience and the organizers and myself. Thank you very much. Thank you so very much for our panelists, and really a round of applause. You can clap for yourself too, and then just clap for others as well if you like. They are reaching. We're feeling the energy and the participation. And this webinar is being recorded, so it would be available on YouTube in a few days, I suppose. And thank you very much for everyone, and passionately sharing it. One last thing I just wanted to say to all the panelists and the Rohingya, those who are viewing here and those who are not Rohingya, of course. You don't have to be apologetic for your emotion, for your reaction, for your words, because you have been pushed into the corners. You're just pushing back. Like you are all human. We all feel it, right? We don't have to be apologetic. You can cry. Please cry openly. Please express your emotion. Because we are human, this is natural. Thank you very much, everyone, again. And good night for some, and good afternoon and evening for others. Perhaps good morning for some too. Thank you very much, guys. Bye for now.
Bye, everyone.